Welcome back. It's all some people seem to be talking about these days, those unidentified flying objects in the sky. Admittedly, some of our team here at CBS 2, some of our behind-the-scenes folks have been a little more interested than others, namely the folks who book our guests. Which takes us to this morning's guest. Dr. Jordan Bimm is here with us. He's a Chicago researcher and space historian. Thank you so much for getting up with us to talk about really a topic that has captivated the national conversation, Dr. Bimm. Thank you for being here. Let's start with what it is we are all seeing. There's been talk of Chinese balloons and other things shot down. Where is the good place for people to start this conversation to kind of separate fact from fiction?
Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me on. Well, we know that first object that was shot down was a high-altitude surveillance balloon launched by China. But the other three objects that were shot down over that unprecedented 6-day period, we still don't know what those are. And it's okay to not know what things are. We have to wait as the recovery and discovery process unfolds. But every indication leads me to believe that those are what I call BOMOs, or balloons of mundane origin. So balloons used for research purposes, recreation, or commercial purposes as well. We just have to wait and see what those are if we ever do find out. But it has drawn new attention to the sky and to things that could be up in the sky.
Balloons of mundane origin. Good way to frame this here. Are we seeing more of these? I think sometimes when we hear about one big one, then maybe the ancillary ones that had already kind of more commonplace become more amplified. Is this something that is happening more often, or are we just more aware of it?
We're just more aware of it. This is an event-driven moment. So the detection of the high-altitude surveillance balloon launched by China created a moment of heightened vigilance. So we had citizens in Montana view this balloon. We had NORAD pick it up on radar. This was a counter-surveillance success, and this led to a moment of heightened vigilance, which caught a number of false positives. That's what those other three objects were, I believe, were false positives caught up in this moment of heightened vigilance. And this is sort of one of those moments where an invisible system becomes visible. And as a historian, it takes me back to the 1960 U-2 spy plane scandal, where the Soviet Union was able to shoot down one of our U-2 spy planes with the pilot Francis Gary Powers, and that created a moment where the entire world observed this system. So we're in a moment like that right now, where there's more and heightened attention to the sky.
And when you talked earlier about it's okay that we don't know what these things are, there are teams, as I understand, studying these aerial objects. What's a good time window to expect some clarity on some of these things?
NASA has convened a UAP study group last fall comprised of astronomers, astrophysicists, atmospheric scientists, and science journalists to essentially look back at the historical data and see if there's any there. But they're really trying to reclaim this area of expertise from the sort of pseudoscientific conspiratorial infotainers that have really claimed the UAP expertise space. So this NASA UAP group is really trying to put out some credible information there. Don't think of them as up against actual aliens so much as they are up against Ancient Aliens, the TV show.
But now there's also a team, though, that's studying exactly what was shot down, right? There are teams that are combing through the Russian balloon, through these other things that might be able to give us some concrete answers.
That's true, yes. The U.S. military and the Canadian military and NORAD are all trying to get to the bottom of this, as everyone loves a good mystery. It's going to be interesting to follow this in the weeks and months as the discovery and recovery process plays out. Will another high-altitude surveillance balloon be detected? These are all things that viewers can follow and watch out for. We may not get clarity on some of these objects. The sky is a large and ambiguous place, but we might, and it's going to be interesting to find out. We just shouldn't rush to fill in those gaps in knowledge with either nefarious conclusions or fantasies.
And the fantasies some people have is aliens. Right now, you would say the odds of aliens being involved in all of this are about where?
Very low. Possibly the least likely explanation for what a UAP is. Unidentified aerial phenomenon is a category of mystery. So once we know what something is, it's no longer a UAP. So I think people need to decouple these ideas in their mind, the UAP on one hand and the cultural imaginary of the space exploring alien. When we talk about UAPs, we should think of them as something that is actually unknown and not jump to a conclusion of the cultural imaginary of the alien, which is just an unself-conscious projection of our own hopes and fears onto the ambiguous sky.
Stick with what is known, always the best policy. We stick to that here at CBS 2. Dr. Jordan Bimm putting things in context and perspective for us. Really appreciate your time. He's a Chicago researcher and space historian. Enjoy the rest of this Tuesday, okay? Thank you.